Monday. Monday. Na 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 na. Gloomy Monday. What is that I see in the sky? Doesn't that kind of look like have you ever seen the movie Nope? I feel like one of them clouds may not be a cloud after all. That could potentially be an alien. Is it an alien? I don't know. The hell do I know? All right, let's start it up, shall we? Good morning, everyone. 36 minutes past the hour. 54 degrees out there. I'm coming to you live from Queens, New York City. Good morning! Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, March 4th, year of our Lord 2024. What's up, everybody? What's going on? Renee here, back. It's the morning after stream live. Blah, blah, blah. What's up, everyone? Happy Monday. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Hope you got enough rest. Hope you got a lot of time to yourself or with loved ones. Got to eat some good food. Maybe watch a good movie or a good show. Play a game. Touch some grass. All of that stuff. Hope you enjoyed it all. As I'm enjoying my morning cup of joe. Nectar of the heavens. So what's up, y'all? Obviously, big news from the weekend is that Dune 2 has been killing it at the box office. Again, who's to be surprised by that, right? Seriously. Coming into this weekend, into the week, I think everyone was really excited and anticipating Dune 2 to do gangbusters. I could have used a lot more of you to go watch it in the theaters. Maybe watch it 2 more times or 3 more times because I was very, very close with my prediction. Very close. We'll talk all about that when we talk about box office. And then we'll talk about, some of the headlines, news that came up Friday and through the weekend. Or we'll touch up on some news stories that I haven't been able to touch base on from the past week. So again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining in, whether you're watching live or on the replay, video on demand. Show your support. Like, dislike, subscribe, all that good stuff. Would really, really appreciate it. Spread the word, share. All of that good stuff. Let's talk about the weekend. My weekend was pretty good. It was semi-busy. I had some things to do, but it was another weekend where I got to enjoy visiting my friend's place. And this is the same friend I have that I've known for a very long time. I've mentioned him before in the past. How we're doing kind of this co-op backlog of gaming. And we're just going through the backlog of games that we've never played or just beaten. And we're focusing mainly on co-op games that you could really co-op on. Yeah, and there were so many co-op games back in the 16-bit era. And it's funny how we find ourselves playing a lot of Sega Saturn games. It's amazing. I don't have the photo here on the computer right now, but I took a photo. We kind of laid it out on the floor. I was like, all right, we want to take a little time out, a little break from Dragon's Crown, which is a game that we've been playing the last couple of times. So let's take a little break from there. And let's just hop into something where we don't have to really pay too much attention to story. We don't really have to focus so much on the narrative. It's just, let's just get in and play and have a lot of fun playing. So we laid out basically the genres that we kind of solidified were beat 'em ups, shmups, and the hybrids in between, right? Because there have been, surprisingly enough, a lot of hybrids where you have some moments of side scrolling, beat 'em up style, but they also put in a lot of shoot 'em up type of gameplay in there. And we had like a good amount of like, I want to say close to 20 games laid out on the floor. But surprising enough for us, I mean, this is something that I guess we just never realized. Majority of those games were Sega Saturn games because there were just a lot of Sega Saturn games that came out in Japan that are a lot of fun for co-op. So we settled in on 3, one of each genre that we kind of laid out for ourselves. And we say, you know what? Let's start off with 1, see how far we go, and then we can kind of jump in and out of the next 2. Like, fair enough. So the first game we played was Radiant Silvergun on Sega Saturn. Great bullet hell kind of shmup. And we had a blast, right? We were playing. We kind of cheated a little bit. We found the cheat code that gave us unlimited continues, which is fine. We don't care. We're not trying to be purist here or anything like that. We just want to play through the game. So we did that. Took a break for dinner, ate, came back and said, you know what? Let's break from this and let's hop into something else. And the next game was Dungeons and Dragons Tower of Doom there on the Sega Saturn. Again, this was released in Japan. So there was Japanese, obviously, dialogue that we couldn't understand or get through. But this was an arcade. I don't know if you all remember, but there were 2 Dungeons and Dragons games, I think 2, maybe 3, that came out on the arcades, in the arcades. And this was one of them. And it's so funny for a game like this to be out in the arcades where you go through a full storyline and you could have up to 4 people play, I believe. And there isn't really necessarily upgrades you can do, but your character does level up. So it's interesting how to have this in the arcade, it's really a ploy to get people to spend as much money as possible. But in the console version, you get unlimited continues. So it's a great beat 'em up. We just went through it, and we beat it. We finished it. We completed it. We didn't even realize it too, at the fact that like all of a sudden before we knew it, we were at the end boss, not really thinking it was the end boss, and it was. And then we just saw final kind of cut screens and then credits. And we're like, oh shit, we actually beat this game. So we did that. And then just to top off the night, we just played like 30 minutes, maybe an hour of Elevator Action Returns, which is such a great game. Such a great game. And it's phenomenal how beautiful the game is too. The animation, the the graphics is just so well put together, especially for a game that the first Elevator Action was so simple in its gameplay and simple also in its visual graphics. To have such a huge upgrade going into this 16-bit, basically 32-bit genre, right, with the Sega Saturn, and to have it look as good as it is. I mean, this was an arcade title too, so you could play this at the arcade before it was ported over to console, but such a great game. If you ever have a chance to play it, Elevator Action is the way to go. Elevator Action Returns. Great co-op type of game. So yeah, so we had fun with that. That was that Saturday. And yesterday, just more of like a chill day for me. Doing chores, catching up on some things. Finally got to play a little bit more Helldivers 2, which is proving to be fun. Continues to be fun. No Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on my side. I said I wasn't going to play that yet. Give myself some time until I can play that because, again, it's a costly game and it's a very time consuming game. And I think right now I don't have the attention span for that at the moment. Because the worst thing you can ever do is to hop into a game that is very time consuming and long and play it. And usually the way I am is like, I'll play something new for like 5 hours, 6 hours, and then I stop and I hop into something else that grabs my attention or something that I feel like can be played through quickly. And then before you know it, a month, 2 months pass. And then when I go back, or I try to go back to the other game, the long game, the game that takes a while, I forget about everything. I forget the storyline. I forget how to use the buttons. I forget any special moves or whatever. So if I'm going to go into Final Fantasy Rebirth, I need to know I'm going to give this all the attention for at least a month. Kind of like what I did when Remake came out. Yeah, it helped that I was streaming it too. So I felt like I was tied to having to have to constantly play it. It didn't bother me, but at least I didn't have a break there. And I felt like I was able to really enjoy the game thoroughly because I played it all the way through with no breaks. And I enjoyed it. And I want to be able to have that same moment where I enjoy it and not be lost or whatever have you. So yeah, so that was my weekend. Would love to know how your weekends were, what you did, what were you up to. Don't hesitate. Let me know in the comments. And all that jazz. All that jazz. All right. Before I get into box office stuff, which is what we do here every Monday, we go into the box office numbers, box office breakdown, and we look at the recent box office from this past weekend. I think we already know where this is going. But I do have another update for the good old Glasgow Willy Wonka event, Willy Wonka Experience. And I kind of hinted on it on Friday's stream, where the person who played the unknown, which is this kind of villain that the AI script generated to be the foe against Willy Wonka at this experience, the actor behind it, behind this creature or whatever this thing is, was going to put out a video to give their take on the whole thing. And the video was, I saw the video pop up on my Twix feed, I believe it was yesterday morning. And I haven't watched it yet. So let's watch this video. This is the unknown. Let's see what this person has to say about the whole thing. Okay. Well, at least we know who the unknown is. I don't know. This story still baffles me. And it's been spreading all around too. I love how these news stories gets picked up and recognized by social media, and just how people get aware of it. And then, of course, you're about to expect like outlets to start making fun of it. There was a brief mention on SNL over the weekend about the whole thing. It was in a skit about these Airbnb kind of home designers and how everything is so generic and very similar, which was really, really funny because I've stayed in Airbnbs that are kind of like that. So it kind of begs you to question, like, are they all following the same playbook or design book or whatever? So that was really funny. They kind of mentioned that these two people also helped design the Willy Wonka experience to be bland and generic. Speaking of SNL, that was one thing I also watched over the weekend. Sydney Sweeney was the host this past weekend, and I thought she was going to be better. For some reason, I thought she was going to be really good in that type of environment, and she was okay. I think they just played her too much to the kind of ditzy, bland white girl persona, because I felt like the majority of her characters were just that, right? And of course, obviously, because she's good looking and she's very ample in the bosom area. So of course they had to do like this Hooters episode, which was a little funny, kind of funny. I think the best part of SNL was we're getting to see Bo and Yang pop up more, which I've always wanted. And I love how he did this one skit where he was supposed to be like this very macho machismo kind of guy, and then hooks up with Sydney Sweeney, and how the whole gay thing is just an act, or like just just a face that he puts out there or something like that. I thought that was really really funny. And then he was one of the waiters at Hooters, which I also thought was fantastic. I love that he's putting himself in more of these skits, because he deserves more attention. I think he's like one of the best guys they have there on SNL. And then who was this? Glenn Powell was there too. So of course they had to squeeze him into a skit there. They love playing on the fact that they have a thing going on between the two of them. She even mentioned it in the dialogue, the opening dialogue, where they. One thing I remember hearing, and I forget who it was. It was like another cast member. They were giving insights on the writing process and how they work with the host every week. And they always say that if they feel that the host is going to be weak a little bit, especially in the comedy side of things, when it comes to the opening monologue, they always use audience participation or audience cut tos if they feel that they don't have good material to use for the opening monologue, or they feel like the host is a little bit on the weaker side. So every time you see someone taking like Q&A questions from the audience, that means that they had to do that because they really couldn't write anything too funny for this person, or this person was kind of a weaker type of host. So I did find it funny that they did have one audience cut to, and that was Glenn Powell, because she was saying something about her fiance and how she worked on Anyone But You with her fiance. And they cut to the audience where her fiance was supposed to be sitting at, and it's Glenn Powell, which was okay, kind of funny, but kind of corny too. Like, okay, we get it. You're playing on the whole thing. So yeah, so I mean, it had its ups and downs, SNL, but I think for the most part, it was pretty meh. I think for the most part, it wasn't that fantastic, that great overall. But I'm curious if you watched it. Let me know what you thought about it, because like for me, I just didn't think it was anything so great, which is disappointing because, like I said, I thought she would have done a better job at hosting. But sometimes it's not always as it seems at all. All right. So, oops, sorry. You got the unknown still talking to me over here. All right. Let's dive into the weekend box office breakdown. This is the moment on Monday's stream where we talk about the weekend box office, highs and lows, and everything in between. And I think it is very obvious that Dune 2 is the number one winner here. So let's go into the box office breakdown here. I'm on thenumbers.com, the source that I always use for box office numbers and all. And no surprise, Dune Part 2 is the clear number one winner. Over 4,000 theaters domestically here, pulling in a domestic gross of 81.5 million. Again, I could have used a couple more of you to watch the movie 2 more, 3 more times. Because I was so close. My prediction was 90 million. So I was very close with this prediction at 81.5 million. Now, the biggest story here is worldwide numbers. So basically, with the international box office coming in around 97 million, we now have Dune Part 2 in its opening week, pulling in $178.5 million, which is phenomenal. Double from what the original done before. But there's a little asterisk there because I think a lot of people forget Dune Part 1 came out still at a time when people weren't going to theaters, and Warner Brothers also released it at the same time on Max. So it was a day and date release. So of course the audience was split, or the majority of that audience at the time watched the movie at home. So it was a smart move for them to re-release Dune Part 1 prior to this, because there were a lot of people who never experienced it in the theaters at all, especially in IMAX, which, really helped with a lot of these numbers. I read in a headline that over 20% of the domestic opening weekend gross for Dune 2 was from IMAX sales. And then premium screen sales, those are your RPXs, your Dolby Atmos theaters. The sales overall was almost 50% from the overall weekend gross. So really great numbers overall for Dune 2. And I think it's not going to stop anytime soon, because from what I recall, March, this is going to be the big movie for the month of March. We have little things here and there coming out, but this is going to be riding the train for a while at the box office. Before we go into more Dune speculation as to how well it's going to do out there, let's go through the rest of the list here. So number 2, we have Bob Marley, One Love, coming in second here with 7.4 million. Overall domestic so far, which is pretty good for this movie, 82.7 million. Which is really great for this movie. Worldwide, we have it at 146. So Bob Marley, One Love has done really, really well for itself. Ordinary Angels, that's that Hilary Swank Hope movie, faith movie from Lionsgate, 3.8 million, 12.5 domestic so far. Then we have The Chosen, Season 4, Episodes 7 to 8. Again, more faith-type programming, which always does well. I always tell people never bank against these type of movies or these events. Pulled in 3.2 million over the weekend. Madam Web drops to 5th, 3.2 million. Domestic, 40.4 million. Worldwide, not so great at 91 million for the amount of time it's been out by now. I believe Madam Web lost to the re-release of Dune Part 1 in China this past weekend. So that goes to show you how great this movie is doing. Migration, still one of the few family-friendly films out there, pulling in 2.5 million. Overall, 123.4 million domestically, really doing well for itself. 276.8 million overall. Again, when you're the only animated dog out there in the streets, then you're going to do really well. And this has been the only one for a long while now. So if you want to take your kids out to the movies, or you just happen to want to do a movie with the family, that is like one of the few things you could experience together. Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yabai, to the Hashira, all that stuff. Demon Slayer pulled in 2 million, coming in at 7th, 15.7 million domestically. Wonka, still in the top 8. One of the few films from last year still in theaters. We have 1.7 million for that. Again, 216.7 million domestically, with a worldwide box office at 624.6 million. You just wait. We're definitely going to be getting a Wonka sequel sometime, or an announcement about it sometime. Argyle, 1.4 million. Not doing so hot. And Jason Statham's The Beekeeper, 1.1 million. Overall domestic, 64.9 million there for the Jason Statham action extravaganza. So yeah, like I said, for the next coming weeks, I think Ghostbusters is the only other big potential blockbuster that we're going to get in this month of March. Let's take a look as we think about what is Dune's success going to be looking like for the upcoming weeks here. The big kind of bar that a lot of studios aim for, especially when they have a big IP franchise film like this is, will it hit the $1 billion mark? Right, that seems to be like the prestigious club that a lot of these studios hope that their big franchise films hit, because obviously that means great success, overall revenue, and potential sequels, right? So that they have a bankable franchise that they can keep putting stuff out for. So for the rest of the month, I'm looking at some of the releases that we have here. A lot of streaming releases as far as movies are concerned. Kung Fu Panda is finally going to be the replacement family-friendly film to be coming out. That comes out actually this Friday, Kung Fu Panda 4. So you're going to expect to see a lot of families, a lot of kids going out to watch this movie. I think that's going to be like that for a bit. And then Love Lies Bleeding, which is more of like an indie release with Kristen Stewart. That's another A24 movie there that I'm looking forward to. Immaculate with Sydney Sweeney. That's one of the reasons why she was on SNL this past weekend. It's a horror film, I think also from A24. Another A24, Problemista. These are all more on the lower end of things. Immaculate is the horror film of the month, I think. So I won't be surprised if that does really well. Plus, you have a hot star attached to it. The other one we have is Late Night with the Devil. That's with David Desmalchin, who I personally love. But I think as far as talent that draws in audiences, expect more people to probably watch Immaculate. The other horror type of draw that you'll have for this month, depending on if you liked it or not, Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey Part 2 comes out this month too, but more towards the end of the month. But the two big movies that will be competing with Dune 2 box office will be Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which comes out March 22nd, and then Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire, which comes out on March 29th. So those are like later on in the month. So we have a good 2 full weeks where Dune will probably reign supreme at the box office, especially with word of mouth, people who haven't got a chance to see it yet, and repeat viewings. And again, if IMAX and premium screens are the ones that are going to be the big draws here for this movie, then expect very decent box office results for Dune 2 for the next couple of weeks up until Ghostbusters comes out, which will eat in a little bit from that box office from Dune. Not a whole lot, because even though you can argue that the audiences are the same for both movies, I think you really have more of the diehard sci-fi people that will still love Dune 2 over Ghostbusters in the long run. Ghostbusters 2 will be riding off more on nostalgia and people who really loved the last one, Ghostbusters Afterlife. So we'll see. This is going to be an interesting test for Ghostbusters to see how well received this franchise is currently. And especially when you have such a huge hit like Dune 2 that's killing it at the box office right now. I think this will be a huge test to see how well Ghostbusters will do, especially knowing that the week after you have Godzilla Kong movie coming out. So I don't envy Ghostbusters' position right now. My prediction for Ghostbusters opening weekend may be like around 30 million. I hope it does 50, because I think that would be a great mark for it to achieve. But I think you have to think of the audiences too, because audiences are a little bit more aware of how much money they're spending at the movie theaters, or whether or not they want to go to support a particular movie or wait until it streams at home. So I do think that you're going to see people debating whether or not, well, I get to choose one movie this month. Is it going to be Dune, Ghostbusters, or Godzilla? And if I'm lucky and I think I want to, maybe I'll see 2 movies this month. So what's that going to be? And I do think that the Godzilla King Kong crowd is much stronger than the Ghostbusters crowd. So I think you'll definitely see a higher box office for Godzilla Kong, especially since we got Godzilla -1 that came out that did so well. I think a lot of people are riding off of that high still from that movie that they want to see, and they're hungry for more Godzilla. So I think they're definitely going to be choosing Godzilla Kong over Ghostbusters. So I just off the top of my head, I think, like I said, Ghostbusters Empire opening weekend, we're gonna see maybe around 30 million opening weekend. Godzilla Kong, don't be surprised if we see 50 to 60 million for that. Because by that time, everyone probably have seen Dune 2. So people are like, all right, I'm tired of watching Dune 2 if I've seen it for the second and third time. Now it's time for the next one, and that's going to be Godzilla Kong. Because once we hit into April, after that, we're going to get a little bit of a slow month for most people. Because we have in April, just by looking at what's coming out, horror is going to be the big thing. Because we have The First Omen, and then we have, I believe, that new movie from M. Night Shyamalan's daughter is coming out that month too, I think. Then we have a series of kind of action drama type of movies with the Monkey Man, the Dev Patel, John Wick looking movie, and Civil War, which is the Alex Garland kind of America at the brink of destruction type of movie, which is very, very fitting for our times right now. So that's also coming out in April. April is looking more like the film lovers, cinephiles type of month, because you have, like I said, Monkey Man, Civil War, and then we have Challengers, which is a movie with Zendaya, directed by the same guy that did Call Me by Your Name. I'm forgetting the director's name right now, but this is an anticipated movie for more of like the indie lovers. So April, as far as blockbuster films, April is going to be the break before we get into May, where arguably this will be like the real start of the true summer blockbuster season. Because that's when we get Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Fall Guy. I think, what is that? The Garfield movie is coming out. What else we have? Furiosa, the Mad Max movie, that's coming out in May. So that's really going to be the start of the major summer blockbuster season. So as far as March is concerned, you have 3 movies that are going to be vying for the audience's dollars. So with that said, does Dune have the potential to hit 1 billion this year? And I think there can be an argument to say that maybe it might not. Only because I think domestically, you're going to hit that wall where you're going to get everyone who wanted to see it already. And when you have 2 other kind of fan favorite type of franchises coming out at the end of the month, that's going to be competing with those dollars, right? And there's only so much people can go see movies at IMAX or a premium theater before getting tired or just not wanting to spend the money anymore. I think the number one thing that we'll have to look out for is how well is it going to do internationally, because that's where it's going to make the majority of its bank. And I don't think it's even out in China yet, because they're just getting the re-release of Dune 1. So I think once it finally hits China, that's going to be the number one thing that we'll get to see, how well that performs over there. Because China, it actually releases this Friday, this weekend. So I think when we see the box office results from this upcoming weekend, then that will lead us and kind of paint the way to see if this is a $1 billion movie or not. And then, of course, we have Japan that won't get it until the week after China does. So those are going to be like the 2 main factors. Well, one, China is really like the number one main factor here to see how well this movie is going to do and if it will hit the $1 billion club. And I think it has potential, but I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to be shy from that. I think if I'm to have like a gut feeling about it, I'm going to say maybe max this movie makes is 800 million, like around that ballpark, I think. I could be wrong. I've been wrong in the past. I think right now I'm just going off of trends that I've seen before and competing movies. If this was a movie that came out in February where nothing was around, for the whole month, then yeah, I think this movie would easily make it closer to the $1 billion mark. But right now, like I said, you have two movies hitting at the end of the month that I think some people want to see badly. One more than the other, in my opinion. Even though I'm a huge Ghostbusters fan and I support everything Ghostbusters, I do feel that there are going to be more people watching Godzilla Kong over Ghostbusters. That's just how it is. You know, there's just a more hungrier fan base there on that side of things. And then again, Godzilla is a more international type of movie. So once that movie hits internationally, Japan, China, UK, that's going to do so much better than Ghostbusters would, in my opinion. So yeah, so we'll see what happens. But I think as far as Dune's chances for $1 billion, it's going to be hard for them. It's going to be a hard goal for them to reach. I would love to see them do it, but I think it's going to be a tough one, a tough road for them to do that. But it's nice to see that at least Dune has gotten a lot of great praises and support. To even now, even that I've had a couple of days to digest it all and think more about it, I still highly think that this is one of the best science fiction movies that I've ever seen in a long while. And I finally had a chance to do a recording with Blake for our next episode of Movie Time. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast. I didn't realize YouTube has this thing where you could now implement your podcast feed to your channel on a playlist, on a podcast playlist. So I'm going to be doing that this week so that every audio episode that is published on the podcast form will automatically populate the channel. So you'll get to hear the audio form of the podcast on this YouTube channel now. And I'm still finding an easier way to put in the video clips on there because it is very time consuming and all that. But this episode that we're going to be releasing this week, we go through our Oscar ballots that we do every year. So this is the Oscar ballots time episode right before the Oscars are aired this upcoming weekend. So stay tuned for that. But we had a brief moment just to talk about Dune. And, you know, if you've known Blake or you've heard our episodes in the past, you know, he's not really a big fantasy sci-fi guy. But man, he couldn't stop talking about Dune 2. He said he loved it. He loved it so much. He gave it 4.5 stars on Letterboxd. And it's such a great film. And definitely was the big talking point for a lot of people and moviegoers over the weekend. And so much so that you have fans like this who show up at theaters dressed up as a Freeman, riding on his own makeshift worm. I mean, I'm of two minds of this. I think this is cool, but at the same time, I'm just like, dude, you know, people don't want to be bothered by your nonsense. This isn't Comic-Con, right? But then you have this guy that shows up and he's just like, I'm just gonna ride around on my own worm, dressed up like Timothy Chalamet there. So I just think that's really funny. And you can tell like a lot of people here just don't give a fuck. They're like, look at this Yahoo running around in this thing. I mean, it's cool as hell. He will be the hit at the next Comic-Con that he goes to if he continues to do this. But if it was me, I'll be like, yeah, this is dope. But dude, come on. Time and place. But it just shows you the fandom for something like this. I think that's really cool for them to be able to do something like that. It's nice to see. All right. All that out of the way. Let's get into headlines. I got to figure out like a better way to do this, but let's see what's going to be. Headline time. Headline time. This is a portion of the stream where we talk about the most recent headlines in movie, TV, pop culture, and on the like from this past weekend, from the past week. Basically, I'm sitting here with my cup of joe, sipping on my coffee, reading the latest news, kind of like what we used to do back in the day, how people would enjoy their cup of coffee with their newspaper in the morning. I know some people still do that, but this is very much my equivalent of doing that. So let's take a look at what's the latest and greatest in news, what's hitting the headlines. One of the big things that hit leading into the weekend is that we have another casting for James Gunn's Superman movie. So first of all, James Gunn made an announcement last week. I forget exactly when last week he made this announcement, but he went to social media as he always does, and he announced that Superman Legacy is no longer being called Legacy. He drops the Legacy and now he's just calling it Superman. And of course, in James Gunn fashion, he revealed the new Superman logo that will be done on the uniform, on the outfit, which I think looks great. It looks very comic book accurate, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. It does look like something that we've seen in comic book and animation form. So nothing new. I think it still looks great. This was all announced when they had the first day of shooting, of filming. And there was like a lot of social media posts with, the cast, kind of posing with themselves for this first day of shooting. And then outside of the big title change, there was a casting announcement that was done. And we have now, oh, sorry, didn't mean to have that pop up again. We have the new Perry White being cast. And that person is, hold on, God, sometimes I don't understand why websites take so long, is Wendell Pierce. You may be familiar with him from The Wire, like I am. I thought he's great in The Wire, and other kind of shows. But Wendell Pierce has been cast in Superman. I guess more recently he's been in Jack Ryan. But he is going to be heading up the good old Daily Planet newspaper company there as Perry White. So we already have David Cornsweet as Clark and Superman, Rachel Brosnahan as the Daily Planet reporter Lois Lane, and Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. So now we have good old Wendell Pierce here as their boss, as Clark and Lois's boss over there at the Daily Planet, which is kind of exciting. I like to see that. This article continues to say, and I'm here on Dark Horizons, the character serves as Clark and Lois's boss, with Jackie Cooper playing him in the Christopher Reeve film, Frank Langella in Superman Returns, and Lawrence Fishburne in Zack Snyder's films. On TV, you had Lane Smith that played him in Lois and Clark, whilst Michael McKean played him on Smallville. And we have, he joins a cast of Skylar Gisondo, who plays Jimmy Olsen, Sarah Sampaio, Eve Teskmacher, E. Gathegi as Mr. Terrific, Terrence Rosemore as Otis, Anthony Carrigan as Metamorpho, Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl, Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, and Maria Gabriela de Faria as the Engineer. Gunn has also taken to threads today to slam the fake AI-generated Superman set photo doing the rounds, putting out the obvious AI-generated flaws. I didn't even know about that, but I'm not surprised. AI ruining things for everybody. But yeah, it's nice to see that it's such a great cast. It's like a low-key, really good cast, in my opinion. And I think it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting to see when this movie comes out. Hopefully it's going to be good. But James Gunn, I mean, I have not seen a James Gunn production since, well, what I'm trying to say is, like, I have not seen a bad James Gunn movie. And I remember my very first James Gunn movie that I watched was, I believe it was called Hero. Hold on, let me look this up. Because James Gunn has interesting roots when it comes to filmmaking. I believe he was a Trauma guy. He directed a lot of the Trauma movies, and which kind of makes sense because you could kind of see that his sense of horror and shock is very much in the Traumaville kind of world, kind of genre, kind of universe there. Super. That was the first movie I saw directed by James Gunn, which is a great film. It's a very batshit crazy type of film, and definitely a different, interesting take on the superhero genre. And then, of course, he was very well known for the movie Slither. And then that led him to start directing the Guardians of the Galaxy movies and so on and so forth, and forever kind of etched in the echelon of, genre directors out there that are very good and do really well in their craft. So I'm excited. I can't wait for it to come out next year. Supposed to be coming out next year and supposed to usher in the new era of DCU within the Warner Brothers Studios kind of platform there. So we'll see what happens. But that cast is low key, really good cast. I really love that. Other casting news is that we have a new cast for the Karate Kid movie. Who remembers the name Joshua Jackson? Anyone? Anyone? Joshua Jackson has been cast in the new Karate Kid movie from Sony Pictures. So the role will mark the former Dawson's Creek and The Affair star's first feature film role in nearly a decade. He was also in The Mighty Ducks, if you remember that or not. The actor most recently starred in Peacock's Dr. Death and Paramount Plus series Fatal Attraction. He joins Ben Wang, who leads the cast of the coming-of-age martial arts drama, which will also see franchise regulars Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio reprising their iconic characters. The film aims to continue the mythology of the original franchise, but plot specifics are under wraps beyond its focusing on a teenager of Chinese heritage living on the U.S. East Coast who finds strength and direction via martial arts. Jackson's role is described as one of the main characters in the piece. Jonathan Entwistle from I'm Not Okay With This is directing from a script by Rob Lieber. So there you go. Joshua Jackson back in the movies, if you remember his name. So anytime there's something new with Karate Kid, I'm always very excited because, I don't know, there's just something about Karate Kid that I've always had a soft spot in my heart for. I loved the movies growing up. Didn't like the video game as much, and I thought the cartoon series was interesting, to say the least. So good stuff there. Let's see. Oh, this was an interesting, two bits of interesting news here, and one I was not even aware of. Did you guys know, or were you guys aware that they're actually making a remake to The Naked Gun? What?
Yeah!
No! That was my initial reaction. No. Because there's just something special about those Naked Gun movies. And it's mainly because of Leslie Nielsen's acting. And I feel like you don't have to go back to the well for that movie. Especially a movie like that, that's so steeped in parody and making fun of a lot of things of the time. Like movies like that, they don't work anymore. And there's a reason why Hollywood has stopped making those type of movies. Like, remember we had such a long period of time where we got a lot of these, like Not Another Teen Movie, or the series of Not So Scary something, Scream, the parody movies on Scream, right? So there were so many moments where we got a lot of these parody movies, and most of them did okay. But that whole side of that genre of parody movies really fell down, like really disappeared for a while. So I was shocked when I heard that they were making another Naked Gun movie. But yeah, I'm here back in Dark Horizons. Paramount Pictures has announced a number of release dates, with several high-profile projects locked in to open in the next 2 years. First up, the long-gestating reboot of the Naked Gun franchise. Looks like it will be going into production this year, with the studio setting a July 18th, 2025 release for the title. Liam Neeson is expected to play the son of late Leslie Nielsen's Frank Drebin in the movie, which is currently untitled and will be directed by Akiva Schaffer. Liam Neeson is going to be doing a comedy action type of movie. I don't know. I mean, I saw Liam Neeson recently in a comedy film because I rewatched the Ted movies, and he showed up briefly in Ted 2. And he definitely has a shtick where, because he's he's known for, like, obviously the Taken movies. So he always has that persona of always being serious You don't want to mess with me. You don't know who you're talking to, kind of thing like that. So is he going to play like that type of character, but in a more comedic type of film? It'll be interesting to see, because the one thing great about Leslie Nielsen is that he could play it straight, but he could also play it like he could ham it up big time. And he was so good at writing that line in between. I don't know how they feel about this. I think this is going to be weird, to say the least. We'll see what happens. I mean, it could work, or maybe it could be a big piece of shit. Schaefer, Don Gregor, and Doug Mann, who all previously teamed up on the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers film, have co-written the movie. Okay. Now knowing that, my hopes have peaked just a little bit more. It went up a couple of ticks. Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers is a low-key great film. Especially, again, it rides that line of nostalgia with a little bit of that slapstick kind of humor that I really appreciated. It's not for everybody. It's not going to be for everyone. I remember when I talked about it with my friend Blake, he was just like, you like that movie? It's like, because you talked it up so much, I went to watch it. And I was like, I don't get why this is funny. It's going to hit people differently. It hit me really well. Especially since, again, I have great memories of watching that show on TV. And it was just for something that was very low budget, direct to streaming. I loved it. I thought it was really, really good. It was a lot of fun. So knowing that this is the type of humor to expect with this movie, okay, I can kind of see it. But still, I think my hesitation is on the whole Liam Neeson aspect of it all. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Article continues to say that the studio has also set 2026 dates for sequels in two of its successful animated franchises. First up is the third Paw Patrol movie, will be released on July 31st, 2026. That will be followed by a sequel to last year's highly acclaimed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, which is targeting an October 9th, 2026 release. I'll also add that very unfortunate that it didn't get any kind of Oscar recognition, because I do feel like this was one of the better animated films from last year. It was this, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Boy and the Heron. Those should have been the three big nominees in animation, instead of including Wish and Elemental, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Article continues to say that other titles having set dates include the Robbie Williams musical biopic Better Man for a limited release on Christmas Day this year, followed by a wide release on January 17th, 2025. Also, the Jack Quaid and Amber Midthunder-led action film Novocaine has set a March 14th, 2025 release, whilst the Dakota Fanning-led horror thriller Vicious has set an August 8th, 2025 date. I love that Amber Midthunder is getting more work and more recognition, because I think she is a low-key good actress. So I'm excited to see more of what she can do there. But yeah, I think the big story out of it all is really we're getting a Naked Gun reboot, which I don't know. I really don't know how I feel about it, but there you have it. All right. Tron. Those who love Tron like I do, looks like it's finally happening. It's being filmed, and we got teased with the first image from Tron Ares. And talk about AI generated. This definitely looks like an AI generated image, if I'm going to be completely honest. I feel like you went into Midjourney and you said, I want an image that looks like it was taken from Tron, except I want it to be the bad people, and I want it to be like red. I feel like AI would easily generate a Tron image like this, but apparently this is an image from Tron Ares that is now in production. So it's going to be fascinating to see. I mean, was it Jared Leto is in it? So let's read this article here from The Hollywood Reporter. What's going on, Ali Tariq? How's it going? Good morning. Thank you for tuning in. How are you doing? Jared Leto shares Tron Ares' first look image, Disney's long-awaited sequel with an AI-inspired storyline. Oh, wow. Look at that. See? I wasn't too far off. started shooting in Vancouver, and starting to target a 2025 release date. So Leto took to Instagram on Thursday to unveil a first look at Tron Ares, the latest installment in the Tron franchise, now shooting in Vancouver. Tron Ares stars Leto as Ares, a computer program sent from the digital world into the real world on a dangerous mission to introduce artificial intelligence beings to humans. Interesting. The Disney tentpole also stars Greta Lee, Evan Peters, Hassan Minhaj, Jodie Turner-Smith, Arturo Castro, Cameron Monaghan, and Gillian Anderson. I kind of like this cast, if I'm going to be completely honest. Big on Greta Lee, have been for a while. Evan Peters is always a fun time. Hassan Minhaj is cool. Yeah. And of course, Gillian Anderson. I mean, how could you not love Gillian Anderson? Production on Tron Ares, which is directed by Maleficent, Mistresses of Evil's Joachim Roning, was delayed by last year's SAG-AFTRA strike and started in January. Not sure about that director, though. That's a little suspect to me. But let's see. Disney is targeting the 2025 release for the follow-up to the 1982 seminal science fiction film Tron and the 2010 sequel Tron Legacy. So it doesn't look like we're going to get Jeff Bridges in this one, which sucks because he was like the main character for the last two. So I guess we're going to move on from there. So yeah, I don't know. It doesn't say what the storyline or the plot is outside of the AI generated guy introducing AI beings. Almost kind of looks, it's like a reverse lawnmower man in a way. But quote here, I'm excited to be part of the Tron franchise and bring this new film to fans around the world. Tron Ares builds upon the legacy of cutting-edge design, technology, and storytelling. Now more than ever, it feels like the right time to return to the grid, Director Ronning said in a statement. So yeah, so there you go. Tron Ares. When Tron Legacy came out, I was really, really excited for it. Really pumped because I was a fan of the first Tron movie. It was obviously one of the first science fiction films I saw as a kid because it was a Disney film, and you know there was just something about the computer generated world that was always very fascinating. And of course, Tron made those series of arcade games I used to play as a kid. So Tron was always something that was near and dear to my heart. So a lot riding on this movie when it came out. And of course, Daft Punk doing the entire soundtrack, I was all in. Visually, the movie was fantastic. Story-wise, kind of bland. And that was very disappointing. So I'm hoping Ares can kind of course correct that a little bit and at least make the story a little bit more entertaining and involving, engaging. But I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens when that comes out. Ali Tariq watched Dune 2 today, and I have to say it's a cinematic masterpiece. Hell yeah. I can't get over it. All that music was just heavenly. Absolutely. I said it in my review from last Friday that for me personally, it's one of the best science fiction films I've seen in at least the last 10 years, in a very long time. If Denis Villeneuve were to continue to do Dune movies for the rest of his life, I'd say let him do it. It is so well crafted, so well directed. The cinematography is fantastic. You're right. The soundtrack is heavenly. Ludwig Göransson is doing such a great job with that soundtrack. And it's funny too, because I was talking to a friend about this recently, how Ludwig, most people maybe know Ludwig from his scoring of the Mandalorian series. And I think he also did Boba Fett, which I may be wrong on that. But each time he does a project, he changes his style so much so that you don't even recognize that it's him. Unlike a John Williams or Danny Elfman or even Hans Zimmer, I feel like every time you hear a score from one of those guys, you could kind of pick on it and say, wait a minute, that sounds like that might be Hans Zimmer. That's definitely Danny Elfman, you know. So they have like their kind of trademarks, their kind of watermarks through their music. Ludwig finds a way to kind of do something fresh and new every time, and he's really working well with Dune. and what is this? Oh no, it's not Ludwig. It's Hans Zimmer, right? Hans Zimmer did the score for Dune. I'm thinking of Oppenheimer. I'm sorry. Yeah, Hans Zimmer. With the, he's because yeah, that's right. There was an article recently that was released that Hans Zimmer is already working on the soundtrack and score for Dune 3, Part 3, which hasn't really been officially announced yet. But I mean, come on, how can it not be in the works right now? The only downside is that Denny did say he's going to take his time doing the third part, so who knows when we're going to get it? Whether it's going to be, my guess is maybe 2027 or 28, which is a long time to wait, unfortunately. But I'd rather him take his time if we're going to get another kind of masterpiece like we got this time. Because yeah, Dune Part 2 is by far one of the best films that's to come out in the science fiction genre in a very long time. And I can't wait to see it again. I definitely want to see it another time. So yeah, and it's definitely a movie you have to see in the theaters, for sure. Did you watch it in IMAX or any kind of special premium type of theater? Let me know what you think about that, because I think it's not necessary, but it definitely enhances the experience overall. For that, IMAX, yes, awesome, yeah. I think I haven't seen it. I saw it in RPX, which is kind of like an equivalent to Dolby Atmos. So I think I owe it to myself to kind of watch it in IMAX the next time around. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I can't wait to check it out again. And I'm glad you enjoyed it too. It's really awesome. All right, let's see what else is worth talking about. There was an interesting kind of news bit that was dropped from Jeff Snyder, one of the guys I like to follow online. He's a Scoops guy. So we're getting Alex Garland's Civil War this summer, which I am really looking forward to. I love Alex Garland's work. I think what was the first Alex Garland film I remember was Ex Machina, which was such a great, refreshing, different type of science fiction film. And since then, he's done so many interesting things. Let's see. I just want to pull up his filmography. So yeah, Ex Machina. Hold on. Let me pull this up. He's written a lot of novels too, which I totally was not aware of. He also wrote the screenplay for 28 Days Later, which is fantastic. Let's see, Garland. Yeah, directorial debuts Ex Machina. Then he did Annihilation, which is another great movie of his. Men, which came out in 2021, which I loved. I thought that was a great movie, kind of underrated, with an amazing performance from Jesse Buckley there. So yeah, so Civil War is something that I'm really looking forward to. It was announced that he's casting now for his next movie to come soon, and it's an interesting cast. So you have Will Poulter, Kit Connor, Cosmo Jarvis, and Defaro Woon Atai to join Charles Melton and Joseph Quinn in Alex Garland's next movie for A24. What a cast! And just looking at Will Poulter, I mean, big fan of that guy. I think he is a very strong up and coming actor. And then you have a lot of these people who were parts of like TV shows, TV series. And then Charles Melton, of course, coming out of May, December, which I thought he did a really good job and good performance. And Joseph Quinn, obviously Stranger Things. Now he's going to be in what is that? What was he cast in? He recently just cast in Fantastic Four for Marvel. So already big stuff for him in the future. And he's coming in another movie too. I forget which one it is. That's coming out this year, but a lot of interesting and fun stuff for Joseph Quinn there. So for him to be involved in an Alex Garland production, I think is going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be great and fantastic. So I'm really excited to see that. And, what is that going to be like? Who knows? We'll see. Let's see. I already talked about Naked Gun, which still I'm kind of shocked that they're still doing that. Okay, I have a gripe to pick with media outlets, interviewers. Can we stop trying to poke the bear when it comes to asking directors or asking actors about stuff? I feel like a lot of these interviewers, they're just looking for clickbait headlines, something they could attract. It's like asking, and it all started when they started asking prestigious directors what they thought about superhero films and Marvel films. So, of course, you had Scorsese saying stuff like, well, that's not cinema. It's more like an amusement park. And then that led to a narrative, right? But you can't expect a Scorsese to be a fan of Avengers or anything like that. It's just these people, these outlets are really trying so hard to grab headlines and quotes. And then recently they start asking directors about Barbie. Like, oh, what do you think about Barbie? I mean, come on. Like, it's like they keep asking because they know the kind of response they're going to get when they bring up these like pop culture, big moments in pop culture, and they're asking filmmakers who are more on the cinephile side of things about these franchises, about these movies. And of course, you're going to get quotes that are going to be like looked upon as like, what? Why did he say that? Now, Denis Villeneuve is now another part of that. And he was recently quoted about talking how TV is corrupted or has corrupted movies because of dialogue. So here, let me share my screen. Here again on Dark Horizons, Dune's Villeneuve, TV has corrupted movies. One of the most acclaimed directors working today, Dune director Denis Villeneuve, is known for his often stunning and incredibly cinematic shot compositions. He's also a champion of the movie-going experience, a man who understands the importance of big screen visuals and that film in itself is primarily a visual storytelling medium. In a recent interview with the Times of London, he took to task the Hollywood industry's approach to film these days, saying that movies have been corrupted by television. He explains that films should be more ambitious and experimental and primarily driven by the visuals. In fact, he'd do a film dialogue free if he could. Quote, frankly, I hate dialogue. Dialogue is for theater and television. I don't remember movies because of a good line. I remember movies because of a strong image. I'm not interested in dialogue at all. Pure image and sound, that is the power of cinema. But it is something that's not obvious when you watch movies today. Movies have been corrupted by television. I'm assuming Denis Villeneuve is not a fan of Kevin Smith movies or any other director that really plays heavily on dialogue. In a perfect world, I'd make a compelling movie that doesn't feel like an experiment, but does not have a single word in it either. People would leave the cinema and say, wait, there was no dialogue? But they won't feel the lack. Whilst he may be known in the industry, he's not down on younger audiences, it seems. Talking about the decision to split his adaptation of the first Dune novel into two parts, he says younger audiences today are craving meaningful content and have no issue with longer films. I trust the audience. This story's too dense. I would never make Dune as one movie. This was the only way I could succeed. I also think of Oppenheimer. It is a 3-hour rated R movie about nuclear physics that is mostly talking. But the public was young. That was the movie of the year by far for my kids. There is a trend. The youth love to watch long movies because if they pay, they want to see something substantial. They are craving meaningful content. Villeneuve will eventually get around to doing a Dune Messiah adaptation if Warner Brothers Pictures wants one, and says there is absolutely a desire to have a third one, but I don't want to rush it. So there you go. So those are some interesting quotes from Villeneuve there. I'll say this. I agree and disagree with some of his thought process there. On one side, it's true. Film is a visual experience, especially for a filmmaker that focuses on putting movies in theaters. Look at Christopher Nolan. He's very much the same type of auteur when it comes to that, too. These filmmakers make movies that are meant to be experienced in the movie theater. So they make their craft for that. Big visual effects, amazing sound, kind of visceral and guttural type of experience, and that the audience can go through watching these type of films. But at the same time, dialogue is very important. He just said it right here in his interview. Oppenheimer was a 3-hour plus film that was mostly dialogue, but yet his kids love it. So in a way, he's kind of like negating what he just said. I just think it's his preference that he could just focus on visuals, which we already know he does a really great job with. And dialogue is just secondary for him. But I don't think TV has corrupted movies. I think, if anything, movies have influenced TV to be more like movies. That's why we're getting bigger productions, more, engaging storylines, and we're getting to see more movie-centric actors going to TV because of the quality of TV nowadays. So I think it's a little bit reverse of what he's saying. But at the same time, I do see where his point of view is coming from, because he is primarily a visual director. So I will put him to task and say, you know what? You want a movie like that? I want you to make a movie that's all visual and no dialogue. And let's see what happens. Let's see what he can do. Because dialogue for me is still very important. But if you can tell a visual story without dialogue and it still captures my imagination, captures my entertainment and my excitement, then by all means, I would love to see it. I would really, really love to see it. But I also agree that films should be a little bit more ambitious. I think people should be trying to push that needle and push the boundaries and take risks, more risks. That's why I love Ari Aster. I love Nolan. These are the directors today that are pushing that and really, really seeing what they can do with the medium. Villeneuve, Nolan, Aster, Alex Garland is another one. These are the ones that are really good for that. And I'm all for it because there's room for everything out there, I think, in my opinion. Ali Tariq, not going to lie, would have enjoyed an extra hour of Dune. Same here. Absolutely. Absolutely. One of my reactions when the movie was ending was I was disappointed because I didn't want it to end. I could have easily have sat through more of that movie. Just how enthralling it was. I was so in it. And I wanted more, So in a way, the way it ended, for a lack of a better phrase, it felt like a giant cock tease.
I'm going to come.
Because even though I enjoyed the ride and I enjoyed everything, and I thought it ended really brilliantly, it was like, oh man, I want so much more here. And I know it's going to be a long time to wait until we get another one. And it's really unfortunate. But I'm with you. I could have easily have sat through another hour. Because it didn't feel that long. There was no time wasted in that movie. Now, I can say, given that I rewatched the first Dune recently, leading to Dune Part 2, I can say that there are some bits in that movie that felt dragging a little bit. Not that it made the movie bad. It's just, this is kind of a little lull here, a little drag here. But this one, I didn't feel that one bit at all. I didn't feel like there was any time wasted. I didn't feel like there was any dull moments. I didn't feel like any moment dragged. Everything was purposeful, had a purpose, moved the story along, and it was just fantastic. It was just a fantastic piece of filmmaking there. However, would I agree that younger generations want longer movies? I don't know about that. I have a lot of friends who are much younger than me who can't stand to be in the theater that long. That's just how people are, you know. And I think more people are so used to watching movies at home now that they have that comfort and ability to pause. You know, pause, run to the bathroom, or pause, make a snack. Or some couples, younger couples, what they do is that they'll pause and they'll continue watching the movie the next day. I can't imagine myself ever doing that. Once I start something, I kind of want to finish it. I can never go back to it a day after. That's just me. But there are a lot of people out there who do that. You know, so I don't necessarily agree that there are people who are craving longer movies. They are craving meaningful content, yes. But you could have meaningful content in a 2-hour movie. It's been done. You could have meaningful content in an hour and a half movie. It's been done. I've seen it. So agree and disagree on some of his points, but I understand where he's coming from. But the whole TV corruption to the movie industry, that made headlines all over the place, and people ran with that. And I'm like, stop it. Sit and think about what he's trying to say before you put that narrative out there. You know, again, it's the same thing. Like, stop asking directors what your favorite Marvel film is. What do you think of the DCU? How many times did you watch Barbie? Come on. Stop that. It's so unnecessary. You're just grabbing headlines. You're just grabbing you're working for clickbait. And it's annoying. Like, we don't need that. Like, every time I see a headline like so and so this is Barbie, I'm like, well, what do you expect? That's someone I don't even expect to even go out and watch Barbie in the first place. So why are you going with that narrative? Because it gets clicks. It gets clicks. Clicks equals ad dollars, and then there you go. And that's just the world we live in. For those people who are out there watching movies in theaters, depending on what theater chain you go to, there are certain things that we are accustomed to at the beginning of the movies. For example, if you are going to watch a movie at Regal Cinemas, you expect to see Maria Menounos, you know, 20 whatever. And then you expect to kind of see, oh, there's a trivia portion, or, oh, she's interviewing somebody, right? If you go to AMC, of course, AMC is well known for Nicole Kidman's little AMC movie-going pledge. Emotion feels good in a place like this. We all go to the movies in my high heels and my silver hoodie. And that's become like a big thing. I loved it. I remember when I go to AMC Theaters, I would love it every time that thing popped up. And people dubbed it as the AMC movie pledge. I was in a theater where people stood up and applauded when that thing came on screen. Never thought it happened when I read about it, but it did happen and I experienced it. And last year, there were rumors that she was going to film a new spot for AMC for this year. But for the longest time, we haven't heard anything about it until last week, where last week AMC officially retired the Nicole Kidman spot that was shown before the beginning of every AMC film. But AMC will release 3 new Nicole Kidman ads in theaters starting March 1st, which has just passed. And we have the first one. It's made its way online on YouTube. Thanks to AMC themselves. And I think this will be a great moment for us to watch it, and for me to watch it and react to it. Because, again, huge fan of this Nicole Kidman spot. So here we go. AMC Theaters, that's magic. Let's check it out. Hold on, let me put up the volume. Starts off the same.
We come to this place to laugh, to cry, to care.
To care.
Indescribable.
Oh, she's still in the same outfit.
And the lights begin to dim.
Okay.
Dazzling images on a huge silver screen.
Okay, now we have new movies.
Through me. And we go somewhere we've never been.
It would be nice
before.
if she sat down.
That's magic.
That's magic.
AMC Theaters.
That's it.
We make movies.
You know, making such a big deal out of this is not as epic as the last one. It's just new dialogue that she dubbed over. You know what it is? I bet you they took many different takes of Nicole Kidman in this theater. And they had her rehearse different lines. Because what was it that she said in the original one? That's where a movie happens or something like that. That's where magic happens. Let me pull up the original spot. Because the original spot is definitely worth watching. And I'm pretty sure AMC Theaters will have it here. We make movies better. That was the original spot, yes. And it was like 1 minute long. So this might be a clip from a longer take. But I just feel like they took several different takes of Nicole Kidman and they chopped it up. And this is now one of the new spots. Because it's just a slightly different dialogue and a different ending. But nothing beats the OG Nicole Kidman spot that I will never forget. This one. That SNL parodied.
We come to this place for magic.
Or magic. It's all about magic.
AMC Theaters to laugh, to
cry,
to care.
Care.
Because we need that. All
yes.
of us.
All of it.
That indescribable feeling.
Yeah, and she's actually talking here.
The lights begin to dim.
The other one just feels like an overdub.
And we go somewhere we've never.
Because we all know
before.
Nicole Kidman will go watch Jurassic World in the movie theaters.
Somehow reborn.
And Wonder Woman.
Together. Dazzling images on a huge silver screen.
That's right.
Sound that I can feel.
Now I can see her watching La La
Somehow,
Land.
Heartbreak feels good in a place like this.
Heartbreak feels good in a
How
place like
heroes
this.
feel
That's
like
the best line.
part of us. And stories feel perfect and powerful. Because here, they are.
They are.
AMC Theaters. We make
movies better. Oh, so good. So good. And of course, this was parodied on SNL. But yeah, I don't know what I feel about this new spot. I feel like this new spot, they kind of like took a back seat a little bit. They got a little lazy, AMC. I'm a little disappointed with you. Little disappointed. Do better. But it's one of three. So maybe the next two will be a little bit more epic, or maybe not. Or maybe this is one piece of an epic overall thing. But I'm a little disappointed with how bland it was. That's just me. All right. I'm going to speed through a couple of other headlines here that I kind of picked up on. Let's see. So apparently the new Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, premiered to extremely high ratings. Obviously, for fans of The Walking Dead, and yes, there are still fans of The Walking Dead, believe it or not, this was the most anticipated return of Andrew Lincoln and Danai Gurira, re-teaming up. So you have Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, premieres to multi-year highs for AMC. The return of Andrew Lincoln and Danai Gurira to the franchise delivers the cable channel's best series debut in nearly 6 years. The premiere of Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, delivered 3 million viewers, inclusive of replays and simulcasts, over 3 days for AMC. That's the best series debut performance on the cable network in almost 6 years, since The Terror in March of 2018, which had the then dominant Walking Dead flagship as a lead-in. AMC doesn't share data for its AMC Plus streaming platform, but the company says The Ones Who Live premiere was the most watched episode of any show on the service. AMC also says February 25th debut drew more AMC Plus viewing in 2 days than any other season premiere had in a full week. and that Sunday was the biggest day for direct-to-consumer signups since AMC Plus launched. So, again, I think a lot of people were just waiting to see Rick and Michonne back together again. And I believe the story plot behind this series is like an offshoot of when they were still with the group and their romance was budding, like a budding romance. So I think this kind of goes deeper into that. So you get to see how their romance really got there, which I think a lot of people were hoping to know more of. Article continues to say the ones who live had 896,000 same-day viewers on AMC, coming in higher than either of the most recent two Walking Dead spin-offs. You had Dead City, 704,000. That's the one with Negan and Maggie. I think they're in New York. And Daryl Dixon, 631,000. That show, he's in Paris. He's in France. Simulcast on AMC's sibling channels WE and BBC America added 207,000 more viewers. The show also aired on IFC and Sundance TV, but figures for those two weren't immediately available. More than 60% of the premiere's 3-day audience, as measured by Nielsen, came after the initial airing. So people were just catching up and watching it after it aired on TV. So, does this mean The Walking Dead's back? Not necessarily, but I just think this is what you get when you have two beloved characters coming back, especially one in Rick who has been who's disappeared for a very long time. Still don't know what happened to him. And I think people were just waiting to finally see him back on screen. And of course with Michonne. So when you have two beloved characters from that franchise, I'm not surprised that you get a big reaction like that. I, for one, am not planning to watch that show. I am so done with Walking Dead, to be completely honest with you. Although I will say the Walking Dead proper series, it did end really well. The last few seasons were better as far as script and writing wise, but that last episode was just like, what the hell? It's like you just took everything that you brought back to prominence and ruined it for me. So I think I'm done for Walking Dead for a while. Who knows? Maybe later on down the line I may revisit it. But yeah, not for me. Sticking to TV, very surprising news came out that I was shocked to hear, especially with the praise that I've seen and the amount of viewers that this show had on Netflix. But the series The Brother's Son was canceled by Netflix after the first season aired. So the series, which premiered in January, starred Michelle Yeoh, Justin Chen, and Samsung Lee. Brother's Son, let's see. While the reason for the cancellation wasn't immediately known, the news comes months after the 8th episode first season of the action comedy drama premiered on January 4. The show was created by Brad Falchuk and Byron Wu, and also included Jun Lee, Heidi Kwan, Alice Hukin, Jenny Yang, Rodney To, and Madison Hu in the cast. The Brother's Son followed Charles' Son, a Taipei gangster who has settled into his life as a ruthless killer, but when his father is shot by a mysterious assassin, he must move to LA to protect his mother, Eileen Mama Sun, and younger brother Bruce Sun. I think the twist there was the mother was also kind of like a gangster or kind of versed into the whole world and all that. While it had a solid opening on Nielsen streaming charts, the series took a notable leap forward in its second week, growing by 38% compared to its debut week. It also spent 5 weeks in Netflix top 10 for English language series, peaking at number 2. See, all of that stuff is what I saw. It was so talked about that I actually added it to my queue because I wanted to watch it. I haven't done it yet. I was actually planning to watch it this week. Now, maybe not so much anymore. In her review, TV critic Angie Han wrote, the series serves up plenty of violent action and dramatic twist, but that above all aimed to deliver on a good time. And although the end result feels like something less than the sum of its parts, it still yields enough fun to make Byron Rue and Brad Falchuk's action comedy drama as bingeable as a tray of freshly baked cookies. Oh, what a lovely review. Very, very nice with the puns and the comparisons there. But yeah, I was really shocked and I was really surprised, again, based off of a lot of the chatter I've seen about this show. So you had Justin Chien, who is the star of Brother Sun, speaking about the cancellation. It's going to take some time to digest this news. That's a quote that he had. The actor who starred alongside Michelle Yeoh and Samsung Lee in the action comedy drama wrote on Instagram Saturday, to all the fans of the Brother's Son, thank you for riding with us on this labor of love. It will take some time to digest this news, but I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for your love and support for the show. Thank you for every post, tweet, edit, interaction, etc. It fills me with so much joy knowing that the show resonated with so many people. Your love made all of our collective work, sacrifices, and heartache worth it. So yeah. And again, also on social media, I've seen a lot of people talking about the series when it came out. It looked to me like a lot of people really enjoyed it. So for me, it's another question about Netflix and their decisions to carry on series or cancel series. Who knows? Maybe it's something that costs them money. Maybe they'll sell it off to another streamer. Who knows? I don't know. But it is really fascinating when I heard something like that. We also got some news about the Acolyte. The somewhat anticipated Disney Plus Star Wars series. Amandla Stenberg says the idea of the Acolyte is to honor the ethos of Star Wars and ideas around the Force, and also challenge them, hopefully harmoniously. This was from magazine whatever, which did a profile interview of her, and she talked about her time with the Acolyte. I am looking forward to this show mainly because we're supposed to be going back to like the days of the old Republic. Plus the cast looks fantastic. I think Carrie-Anne Moss is part of it too. There's also, I guess depending on what side of the coin you sit on, there is a lot of controversy about this show too because of its showrunner, who is very outspoken and vocal about feminism and social awareness on certain situations. She also kind of, in her own way, blasted Star Wars and how it doesn't sound like she's a major fan of a lot of the Star Wars lore and storytelling. And now she's going to put her spin on things. So a lot of people are saying like, oh, watch out now. This is going to be a woke Star Wars series. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I do love her passion when she talked about the Acolyte and working on it. So it could end up becoming, very well done. I guess time will tell as soon as we actually watch it and we see it. So we shall see when that moment comes. Let's see. The Rock made headlines because he has secured ownership rights for several names and catchphrases involved with his time in WWE. I thought this was such a baller move on his part. So Dwayne Johnson has secured ownership rights for several names and catchphrases, which include The Rock, Team Corporate, Rock Nation, Rudy Poo, Candy Ass, Jabroni, If You Smell What The Rock Is Cooking, The Samoan Sensation, The Blue Chipper, The People's Champion, The Great One, Know Your Role and Shut Your Mouth, The Rock Just Bring It, The People's Elbow, Rock Bottom. Finally, The Rock has come back. It doesn't matter what. Rock Apocalypse, Project Rock, the most sorry. I need a sip of coffee for this one. The most electrifying man in sports and entertainment. So this all came about when details of him joining the board of TKO for WWE, he had certain conditions that he wanted to meet in order for him to accept that role. And this was one of them, securing the ownership rights for all of this stuff. This doesn't mean that he trademarked them. So it doesn't mean that if you go out there now and you say, oh man, I don't know about Joe. Looks like he's about to hit rock bottom. Oh, copyright. You now owe The Rock 5 cents. You know, or you're going around calling someone jabroni. Up. You blew it. Copyright. You owe The Rock a penny. No, it's not that. It's just if he ever wanted to use any of these phrases, The Rock name, outside of the WWE, he can't because he himself owns it now. Because generally, whenever something is created within the WWE universe, it's the WWE that owns it. Vince was very stringent about that stuff. That's why, and I've mentioned this before in the past, anytime you have a wrestler that leaves WWE to go somewhere else, whatever their name is or whatever their theme music is usually stays with WWE, so they can't carry it with them. We saw that recently when Edge left WWE to go to AEW. That's why he goes by his actual name now, Chris Copeland. I think he was able to carry the music because the music is actually licensed by a real band and not owned by WWE. So I think he was able to carry that with him. But if it's something that WWE creative actually made and created themselves, you can't take that anywhere with you. So, for example, like if Stone Cold was decided to do something else, he can't use that Stone Cold moniker. He'll probably just have to go by Steve Austin. You know, The Rock, when he went into movie making, I think for the longest time he was trying to push Dwayne Johnson as his name, but still people only recognize him and know him as The Rock. So it made sense for him to have to do all that stuff. So good for him. Good for him. Again, he's becoming, I think, well, until when are we going to start calling him the corporate champion? Because he's becoming such a businessman on that side of things. It's really fascinating. Iman Vellani recently said that she has been assured that she will return to the MCU. According to Polygon, let's see. Let me just bring this up and increase this so everyone can see. Miss Marvel star Iman Vellani has been assured by Marvel she'll return to the MCU, though she doesn't know when. Miss Marvel is one of the most charming projects to come out of recent Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that's owed in large part to its lead actor, Iman Vellani. Brought breakout Marvel Comics superhero Kamala Khan to the small and big screen with megawatt charm. I totally agree. So when Polygon sat down with Vellani in advance of Saturday's 2024 Crunchyroll Anime Awards, we had to know, have the folks behind MCU assured her that Miss Marvel has a place in its future. Her quote is, "I have been assured." Up, and we have this stupid video ad. Thanks, Polygon. I have been assured, she replied, and continued with good humor, though, so that feels good, but there was no more assurance than that. They give me breadcrumbs, and I try and make a meal out of it. Of course, we just saw her in the most recent The Marvels. So, personally, I think, and this article kind of alludes to this, I think she's going to be part of the Mutants storyline whenever that gets introduced. So don't be surprised if she starts interacting a lot with the X-Men and all that. She might, who knows, she might show up in Deadpool 3. I don't know. It'll be interesting if that happens, but that is a possibility there. An interesting article here I read about Damien Chazelle. Damien Chazelle, you should know him as the director of La La Land and many other great movies, in my opinion. Whiplash is another one that I really love. First Man, I think, is an underrated movie of his. And Babylon, well, then you have Babylon, right? We all know Babylon didn't do so hot at the theaters when it came out. So he talks about that and how it's affecting him when it comes to filmmaking. So here the article says, I'm here on Dark Horizon. La La Land and Whiplash filmmaker Damien Chazelle's lengthy, lavish, and divisive old Hollywood epic Babylon opened in late 2022 to much fanfare and discussion and a lot of disinterest. Very true. Reviews were mixed, the film polarizing critics and audiences with a 57% on Rotten Tomatoes and a C+ cinema score. What wasn't mixed was the box office, the film debuting to just 3.5 million in its opening weekend, 1/4 of its projected start. Babylon ultimately made just 15.4 million in North America and a further 48 million overseas for a worldwide total of 63.4 million, boasting an 80 million production budget and a lavish marketing promotional campaign. It was estimated the film needed to make 250 million worldwide to break even, and that in itself is already a problem. Who would have thought, or who could have expected that Babylon would make that kind of money? No way. There was no way it was going to be able to do that. I think that's very asinine. Ultimately, it is estimated the movie lost the studio around 87 million. Chazelle himself has stayed quiet since the film's release, with little talk of what he'll do next. Yeah, because I'm sure he's embarrassed, and I'm sure now he's looking like a thorn in the studio side at the moment because they were riding so much on this guy because of movies like La La Land. And then he puts out something like this, which in a way, if you've watched the movie, could be seen as an homage and a slap to Hollywood. So, I don't know. Take that as you wish. Whatever it is, though, he's aware he won't get that kind of budget again, which I think he shouldn't in the first place. Speaking with Talking Pictures podcast this week about how things have changed for him following the fall of Babylon, he says, I've kind of had my head in the sand and been sort of busy writing. So I'll get a taste of how it's changed or not since Babylon's once I finish this script and try to get it made. I'm in sort of a trepidatious state of mind, but I've no illusions. I'm not going to get a budget of Babylon size anytime soon, or at least not on this next one. I guess I've learned the hard way that there will be a part of me that's always anxious regardless of whatever the previous one worked or not. But certainly, in financial terms, Babylon didn't work at all. You try to not have that affect what you're doing creatively, but at some level, it can't help but affect it. But maybe that's okay. I'm really of mixed mind about it, so I guess I need to try and do what I would have done regardless. And who knows, maybe I won't be able to get this one made. We'll have to wait and see. That's really sad, if I'm to be completely honest with you, because he's a very talented filmmaker. You know, depending on how you feel about Babylon, there are many parts of Babylon that I found fascinating. And huge production. There's a lot of huge production moments in that film. I loved La La Land still to this day. It's one of my favorite films of his. Whiplash is right there number 2. He makes great film, and I love how he loves mixing music in his film. He pays a lot of important attention to music. I think the big mistake here is giving him big budgets. He should not be a person to work with big budgets like that. I don't think it's necessary for him. I think he should still be middling tier budgeting when it comes to his films. Because for a lot of the stuff that he wants to do in story making wise, I don't understand where that money goes, to be honest. Is it mainly going to the actors involved? Because he does draw big talent? Then maybe he should start from the ground up again. You know? Be a little... if anything, this is like a humbling experience. And I think everyone gets that moment where they're riding high off of a lot of their accomplishments. But sometimes people make mistakes, or sometimes people do something that doesn't get that same attention. And it humbles you a little bit. Puts you back to the ground, grounds you a little bit. And if anything, that kind of drives you to get back to that state. And maybe going back to some of his roots of being more of like an indie person could help boost him. Or maybe you come to the realization that maybe you're just meant to be that type of director. Not on the high budgeted end of things. Maybe you are just meant to be that here on this level where there's nothing wrong with that, because people will pay attention still to your movies if done well. If the storytelling is there and you have that engagement, it'll happen. Unfortunately for Babylon, it didn't. So I understand why he's feeling the way he does. It's unfortunate. I don't wish that upon anybody. But at the same time, you got to check yourself. And I think in a way, this was Hollywood and audiences checking himself and just saying, all right, you need to slow down a little bit because maybe you're getting in over your head just a little bit. So reel it in, buddy. Reel it in. All right. Last bit of news that I did want to talk about this morning. Again, Oscars are coming this weekend. I'm so excited. Stay tuned to the channel because, as always, this will be our third year in a row doing this. We are going to be reacting live to the Oscars show on Sunday. So stay tuned to the channel. I'll put a post out as to what time to expect the festivities, but you'll have myself and Blake reacting to the Oscars live as the program is airing. So we're excited. Obviously, we couldn't stop talking about it over the weekend as we were doing our Oscar ballots and all that. And I love it how every year, somehow, a publication or two will get to interview anonymous Academy voters to kind of get like a sense of what the landscape is looking like behind the scenes. And here we go. Lo and behold, we have a new article from The Hollywood Reporter. Brutally honest Oscar ballot number 1. Zone of interest is Best Picture, but Nolan is Best Director. This member of the Academy's Short Films and Feature Animation branch also says that Oppenheimer makes me sad that one day I'm going to die because I won't get to see movies like this. So basically, they interview this person and, they get a litmus test of what the mindset is like for a voter like this person. This brutally honest Oscar ballot, which is the first in a series that THR will run ahead of Oscar night, reflects the votes and candid rationales for them of a male member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, 867-person short films and feature animation branch, as communicated to THR in return for anonymity. THR does not necessarily endorse these views or suggest that they are representative of anything other than the voter's perspective. I have to do it in the kind of like legalese type of voice there. But let's see what they have to say. Best Picture. I would have preferred to see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse as a nominee over Maestro. Wow, hot take. It's an incredible feat of animation and storytelling. But then again, where is this person from? Short Films and Feature Animation branch. Again, not surprised that this person would think that way. It's an incredible feat of animation and storytelling. American Fiction and The Holdovers were enjoyable, but very old-fashioned, meaning not edgy, in terms of their stories and their filmmaking. That right there makes me understand that this person is probably a younger voter. When I first heard about Barbie, I couldn't even imagine that it would be here. And then after seeing it, I couldn't imagine that it wouldn't. And that's because Greta Gerwig nailed it. Killers of the Flower Moon had a lot of great stuff in it, but no movie needs to be 3 hours and 25 minutes. Take that, Denis Villeneuve. Again, I don't think you know exactly what every younger generation feels. Like me, a lot of people had to watch it at home. And unlike me, a lot of people probably didn't make it to the end. Bullshit. I don't agree with that. If it was made by anyone other than Martin Scorsese, a studio would have said, you've got to cut that. We don't need to see the landscape for 2.5 minutes. But I guess he earned that. Past Lives was beautifully simplistic. I love movies like this that tell you a human story, have so much going on beneath the surface, and really don't have an antagonist other than time and space. I can't agree more with that. Poor Things is some of Yorgos Lanthimos' best work. Agreed. The whole cast was phenomenal. Agreed. And I can't wait to see it again. Agreed. Anatomy of a Fall grew on me over time. That monologue where Sandra Hüller tears her husband apart is just incredible. But for me, choosing between Oppenheimer and The Zone of Interest was so hard. Oppenheimer is a movie that advanced cinema with the invention of a new film stock. the use of IMAX cameras in close-up and dialogue scenes, and the marriage of image and sound. This is sort of cinematic experience that you live for if you love movies. It makes me sad that one day I'm going to die because I won't get to see movies like this. But no movie made me feel like Zone of Interest. That is what filmmaking is supposed to do. It wasn't trying to tell you that the Holocaust was bad. It was showing you how little it mattered to the people who were doing it. Just like today, when people are going about their lives while horrible things are happening all over the world. I've seen a lot of reviews by people who didn't get it, including the critic for the New York Times. Some think they are watching a boring movie that's trivializing the Holocaust, but they need to elevate their understanding of what's happening here. I cannot agree more with this person's assessment. The Zone of Interest, I called it the most horrifying movie of last year because you are following it through the perspective of the enemy side and seeing how for them it's just a day in the life. And it's not a movie that's trying to sympathize with them. It's not a movie that's trying to encourage the audience to sympathize with them. It is just truly showing you how for them this is just normal everyday life, which in itself is horrific. Another reason why I love the movie Leave the World Behind, it's because it also plays on that type of storytelling. How we go about lives looking for escape from all the stuff happening in the world behind us. You know, escaping by going on a weekend getaway, binging a TV show, and all that matters to us are those moments. And then before you know it, the world around us is turning to shit. You know, but we're so focused on getting away from it all. You know, those bits of storytelling is so poignant for today. And I love movies like that. And I wholeheartedly agree with their assessment on Zone of Interest and also what they had to say about Oppenheimer. And that's why, in my opinion, I think the Zone of Interest will win International Feature Film and Oppenheimer will win Best Picture. So I'm not surprised that they think this way. So they even unveil their voting here. So in case you didn't know, they do like a rank voting. So what the Academy does is that for every category, they list it out as far as ranks. So if you have a category with 5 nominations, they rank the nominations as their vote. And that's why it goes into the algorithm. And whatever algorithm they use, that's how they determine who the number one winner is and all that. So as you could see here, Zone of Interest was number 1, Oppenheimer is number 2, and Anatomy of a Fall is number 3, with Poor Things being 4th. Now, Best Director, this was an easy one. Christopher Nolan has deserved to win this award since The Dark Knight, and he really deserves to win it for this one, the most monumental achievement of his career. Kudos to the Oppenheimer team for doing such a good job of demystifying the process and showing people what he had to do to make this movie. I've seen so many little videos and things on YouTube, on social media, which were probably repopulated by the Nolan fanboys, so you couldn't miss them. Yeah, that was one of the things I said about this movie too. It's like all the things that he had to do behind the scenes, especially to recreate the big moment, the big nuclear test for the first time, how he wanted to go so practical and not use any CG on it. What a feat. What a feat. Best Actor. Maestro's Bradley Cooper was really good. American Fiction's Jeffrey Wright was phenomenal. The Holdovers' Paul Giamatti and Oppenheimer's Cillian Murphy were great, and one of them is going to win. But I've always loved Coleman Domingo as an actor, and I loved his performance in Rustin. Bayard Rustin has always fascinated me, so I want to throw him some love. So this person voted Coleman Domingo, Rustin. Best Actress. Emma Stone was phenomenal. I mean, the bravery and balls that it takes to put yourself out there in the way that she did. And Lily Gladstone, there's such quiet power to her performance. I was going to vote for Lily, but I ended up moving my mouse at the last minute. I decided to vote for Sandra Hüller. I had never seen this woman in anything before 2023, and then seeing her give great performances in two totally different roles, because she was also in Zone of Interest, made me appreciate just how talented she is. I want to see her in more stuff. This is one of the things that I talk about all the time. When if you have an actor or actress in several movies in a year, and each performance is equally good, if not better than the other, that's going to give a lot of attention to Oscar time. And in a way, it's kind of like a conglomerate vote, where you have Sandra that gave two amazing performances in two movies in 1 year. They will kind of count her for one of the movies, but because she was strong in both, that puts it a little bit over the edge. So as you could see in this voter, this won this person over because of her strong performances in those two movies. I agree. She is a phenomenal actress who deserves the nomination. But in my opinion, I don't think she deserves the overall win at the end of the day. But I also can't argue with the fact that this person thought that way. So very interesting. Best Supporting Actor, I was torn between Mark Ruffalo and Robert Downey Jr. And even though it's cheesy, I'll be real with you. I met Downey at an award season party. We had an interaction that I did not initiate, and it tipped the scales for me. Campaigning. That's the whole point. Campaigning matters. See, right there. What's really great about him as an actor in this film and so many others is his ability to be believable all the time. I loved watching him turn as the story turned on Strauss. So, vote went to Robert Downey Jr. Best Supporting Actress. I would have liked Sandra Hüller to be here for Zone of Interest, but I can't really argue with the ones who got in. Jodie Foster and Emily Blunt were very good, and Barbie's America Ferrera, Daniel Brooks, and Divine Joy Randolph were great. Danielle will be back here very soon. I do agree with that. But Divine was just so emotionally captivating, so subtle that you could miss it if you weren't paying attention. Actresses like her, a plus-size Black woman, don't often get opportunities like the one that Alexander Payne gave her. It was really smart of them to pair her for a lot of stuff with Paul Giamatti, which kept a bigger spotlight on her. So because of that, his vote went to Divine Joy Randolph, which I do agree with. Adapted screenplay. Oppenheimer was probably the hardest one of these to adapt, but because I'm sure that Nolan is going to win Best Director and probably Best Picture too, and because I'd like American Fiction to get some recognition, I voted for it here. In the wrong hands, American Fiction could have easily been fumbled. It's been special to see how it has connected with so many people of different backgrounds. I totally agree here too. And again, it just shows you the thought process that me and Blake talk about all the time, where a voter can go into something and they'll have this type of conversation with themselves. Like, oh, Nolan's probably going to get Best Picture and Best Director. So let me not give him so much love here. I want to spread the love more. Let's give someone else some recognition. So these are like some of the things that go into the minds of voters. It's not necessarily for the best in every category all the time, even though you would think it should, but it's also very dependent on what the person feels and how votes get split amongst all those feelings amongst everyone else. So it's interesting to kind of just see that thought process played out. Here we go. I would have swapped out Maestro or May December for Saltburn, which was so fun, weird, and unique, a big swing film. I couldn't agree more. Holdovers was solid, but for me, this was between Past Lives and Anatomy of a Fall, and it was very close. With Anatomy, I loved the structure and teasing out of things, and especially that it doesn't give you the answer. You as the audience member have to decide. For the record, I think she did it. Laughs. So this vote goes to Anatomy of the Fall. Now, if you haven't seen Anatomy of the Fall, again, without spoiling too much, Sandra Hüller's character is being accused of a crime. And all throughout, there's a lot of signs that pointed that maybe she was the one who did it, but there's also a lot of signs pointing that maybe she's the one who did it. At the end of the movie, there is a verdict, but it ends in a way that you still ask the question, well, I don't know, man. It's still very possible that she could have been the one to do it. So it's like one of those fascinating type of films with a fascinating ending. So I could understand the thought process here. So it's interesting that would be the case here. Animated feature, knowing that this person is part of the animated branch, I think I kind of know where they're going with. And I think that's going to be a Spider-Man, but we'll see. Boy and the Heron was fine. Fine? Blasphemy. Robot Dreams blew me away, but it's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse by a mile, and I'm extremely disappointed by what they did to Joaquin Dos Santos, one of the film's 3 credited directors, who was denied a nomination because of the Academy's rule that a nominated film in this category can be represented by no more than 2 of its directors and 2 of its producers, or was the case with Spider-Verse, 2 directors, a producer, and a producing team. Okay, this person goes deep into it. Best documentary. There are a lot of sad movies nominated this year. The Eternal Memory, 4 Daughters, To Kill a Tiger, 20 Days was just too hard to get through. Bobby Wine was also upsetting, but it was a little easier to watch. Watching it, I was like, they can't do that to him. And then it happens, and it's a reminder that corruption knows no bounds. It's similar in the way to another documentary that I voted for that is unfortunately very timely right now, Navalny. So this person voted Bobby Wine. International feature, I watched them all and really enjoyed it. Teacher's Lounge, but it was no contest. Zone of Interest, I'm not surprised there. Cinematography, Oppenheimer. Costume design went to Poor Things. Best film editing went to Oppenheimer there, which I agree, because again, Hoyt van Hoytema is one of the best cinematographers in the game right now. Best makeup and hairstyling, Poor Things. Original score, Oppenheimer. Again, Ludwig Göransson. Original song, What Was I Made For? No surprise. Best production design, Barbie. Huh, that's interesting. Best sound, Zone of Interest. Best visual effects, Godzilla -1. Yes, thank you. Although I love what they said here. I thought for a lot of the season that I'd vote for the creator. I really liked the movie and its VFX. But once I caught up to Godzilla -1 and realized how much they did with how little money they had, I had to vote for it. And that's the narrative I've been saying for the longest time. I think a lot of people are going to go into this with that same type of mentality. And I think that's why Godzilla -1 will win this category. Best animated short, War is Over. Best documentary short, The Last Repair Shop. Best live action short, let's see, where does this go to? The After, not Wes Anderson. How dare you? But this person shares the same thoughts I had. Was that I don't think that Wes Anderson belongs in this category. Oh no, this person's smoking. I don't know what this person's smoking, but there you go. That's again a nice little glimpse into a thought process of a singular Academy voter out of what, 800 plus, I think it was. And it kind of just sets the landscape, at least for a certain point of view and a certain perspective as to what an Academy voter may be thinking about as they were putting their votes in last week for the Academy and all that. So interested to hear your thoughts. Who do you think is going to win in the categories? Who's Best Picture winner, Best Director? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments, whether you're still here live watching or you're on the replay. But I think with that all said, we're going to call it a morning. Thank you again so much for tuning in. Really always appreciate the support and love that you guys given. I love those of you joining in, and a good amount of you love watching the replays and the videos on demand. So thank you so much. Again, don't forget, hit that like button. If you hated this and you want me to stop making these things, then hit the dislike button. Subscribe if you haven't done so yet. That's the best way to stay up to date with everything we do here in the channel. And don't forget, hit the notification bell so you get notified every time a new video is posted or every time we go live here. So best way to do all that. Again, thank you so much. I will be back live here on Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with my Binge of the Week review. What show is that going to be? Well, you're just going to have to wait and tune in to find out. And whatever other news pops up during the week, it's hard to tell, but we'll find out come Wednesday. So stay cool, stay classy, stay safe. I've been Renee. This has been The Morning After. Peace out, everybody. Bye-bye.